Culture is usually one of the topics in intro to sociology that comes up like really, really early on in all the introduction to sociology textbooks, like chapter 2 or 3. And I have always, in the handful of years that I've been teaching, I like hold it until we get to about the middle of the class, because as opposed to kind of studying culture and then studying gender and race and education and inequalities and things, I would rather study gender and race and inequalities and things like that, and then go into culture so that we can kind of we've already been thinking so much about our own culture and the way that we together as a large scale macro level community are shaping our own lives through the socially constructed aspects of our interactions and everything else. So, a definition of culture is the way of life that people value and pass down to children. So, we have these cultural norms, right? These unwritten rules. We have these cultural traditions. And a lot of times, our cultural backgrounds can shape the way that we look at the world. Now, cultural norms and traditions come in two different things. So, two different ways. There's the material aspects of it, which are the tangible symbolic items, possibly clothing or food or other indicators of our cultural beliefs and things. But then there's also the non-material, which is our ways of believing and acting and treating each other. It could be aspects of our language or our language usage, or when it is we speak to each other, or eye contact, or so many other things. Culture goes together a lot with socialization because our cultural norms a lot of times dictate the way that we interact with each other. So, one other aspect of culture that's really, really important is the concept of ethnocentrism. And so, to be ethnocentric means that you are thinking of what's quote unquote normal in your culture, and when another culture is doing something that you would consider to be strange or weird, that you're really judgmental of it. So it's using our own cultural beliefs and values to judge other cultures. But the big important part is that you assume our group is superior. So an example would be, let's say I invited you over to my house, and we'd had dinner or something, and then it was time for dessert, and I had the most special dessert from my culture, chocolate covered cockroaches, right? And so if you, once I just said chocolate covered cockroaches, are thinking, ew, gross, oh my God, oh, why would you? Never, oh, I'm not going to try it. Technically, you're being ethnocentric, right? Because you're judging the fact that my culture has something that you think is weird or not right or things like that. I actually had students in a cultural foods class at one of the colleges I teach. The instructor actually brought in cockroaches apparently this week, and they were warning the students, prepare yourself, that you need to be careful when you eat them because the legs can get stuck in your teeth. Okay, I'm trying not to be ethnocentric. Try not to be. Can you see how we can fall into that relatively quickly, though, that we get incredibly judgmental about what might be totally normal and even like cherished in another culture? Our reaction to it is going to be one of like, ew, gross, weird, why, that kind of thing. So, the opposite then of ethnocentrism is cultural relativism. And so that's trying to understand another culture without making judgments or comparisons. So it's not necessarily that you're going to be chowing down on chocolate covered cockroaches per se, but that you maybe are respectful and curious and ask some more questions, or maybe you take a tiny bite or things like that, that you are open to it and you're not just immediately dismissing it as something that is strange. Another thing I always share when it comes to culture is the idea of subcultures. And so, what I'm about to put up on the screen is actually intended as to be humorous. It's just a joke. It's a lighthearted little way of looking at some various subcultures in kind of teenage and young adult lifestyles. But Overall, really, when you think about it, the idea of subculture can be really, really important because one aspect of culture is that it brings people together, but it also separates people. So when I am with people of my own culture, we have that connection and everything else. But also, that can separate people and kind of put them as an outsider to whatever your cultural norms are. Well, the same can be said with subcultures. And so, subcultures a lot of times are our interests and hobbies and things like that. So, if you are really, really interested in fashion or cars or like in my case, I really, really love all kinds of like Pinterest type craftiness and recipes and domesticity and making my house cute and like decorating gifts, like wrapping gifts so that they're extra cute and making my own cards. And I know, by the way, right now, you're not judging me because you think I'm a super cool person when I tell you all of this. Because to judge me about my subculture would be to be totally ethnocentric, and you're never going to be ethnocentric ever again. But that idea of I could talk to my friends who also I share that Pinteresty recipe, party hosting, detail oriented, cute stuff with, and we could be talking about all this lingo about various things. I do this when I'm in my in person classes. I bring some of like the crafty tools that I have that actually would seem pretty weird to an outsider to show them like this idea that people in various subcultures, if your subculture is wearing makeup and you know all about various eyeliners or lip liners, or I don't know because I don't really wear makeup. And so, not that I'm being ethnocentric, right? Not being ethnocentric. But I just don't have knowledge of it. But you could be talking about various brands and different trends and all these things. Same with cars, same with music, same with clothing, same with so many things. And so I want you to think about what are your subcultures that you're a member of, that you would be able to talk to your friends who share that same subculture, but somebody who might not share that same subculture wouldn't be sure what you're talking about. So, culture is something that's constantly being socially constructed around us. It's something that we can really hold dear to. It's something that sometimes can hurt us when we are made an outsider or when we don't follow the norms, but it's a powerful, powerful force within our society.